Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, what condition my condition was in.
Alon! How's your internet how's your internet holding up, man?
I think it's good to go. I think we're good.
Finally.
Yeah.
Finally. We've been keeping the people waiting.
Sorry,
No.
I don't have Google Fiber. I have what's called Cox, if you've ever heard of it.
I've heard of Cox before. It's
It sucks.
yeah, well, we'll get through today. It's all good, man. Just your opinion, man. Derek Papa, Alon Desai, for this new edition of Just Your Opinion, man. And Alon's already frozen, so we'll see if we get his camera working here in a little bit. But yeah, new iteration of the podcast. For those of you that didn't see the last episode, it's the last time we've done one in a while, about 3 weeks here. And the last one I did was Steven. Steven said his goodbyes. He's going to he had a baby. We'll get into that. But Steven's plan is that he's going to take the off season off, and we'll see where we go from there. My money is on Steven not returning, just because when you have a child, things change in your life, obviously. So we wish nothing but the best for Steven. But Alon Desai's going to join us now going forward, and we'll see what happens once football season starts. But good to have you, Alon, if you're there.
Yeah, I'm here. If you can hear me,
I can hear you. We made us get a frozen edition of you today.
That's okay. I'm still working out the kinks over here at the home studio, but happy to be here. And obviously, congratulations to Steven and his wife. That's huge. And we'll see. We'll see. I haven't set the line yet on whether he'll be back yet or not, Derek, but maybe I'll take some action on that.
Well, let me just show everybody the new baby boy. We got a picture of this the other day. This is Miles Victor Langford. He was born, I believe, last Saturday, and went with Miles. He didn't want anybody to know the name of the baby. Victor is Steven's father's name, so that's a good tribute to him. But yeah, congrats to Steven and Jesse on the new baby boy, Miles Victor Langford. Love you guys, and hopefully Steven comes back. But if not, we got Alon Desai on the podcast, Just Your Opinion, man, going forward. And now we are in the off season of the NFL, and I know a lot of opiners are going to be like, oh, we just talking football the whole offseason. No, we won't be, but we like the fuckery. We like free agency, and that's coming up in exactly a week from tomorrow. We'll get ready for the NFL fuckery, and this is when I usually go crazy, Alon. I try to find things to keep myself busy when I'm not thinking about football all the time. Obviously, we got basketball right now, and the Warriors aren't great. They just got blown out last night by the Los Angeles Lakers. Baseball's coming up in a few weeks. The Giants kick off their season against the Yankees on March 25th. But what do you usually do to keep yourself occupied during the NFL offseason?
I watch a lot of baseball, and I try not to think about the NFL. I also watch reruns repeatedly of the Combine, so a lot of underwear Olympics. That's about it.
Have you been keeping track on the Combine? Because I got to be honest, I love everything with the NFL, but the Combine is one thing where I'm just not really engaged. I think that this time of year when everybody goes to the Combine, you see every GM's there for the most part. Some just, stay home now. Like Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, as far as coaches, haven't gone to the Combine in years. And I think we're seeing more and more people kind of say that its value has diminished in recent years. I think that obviously, it's good for the owners, and not the owners, but the GMs and some of the head coaches that are there to get together and start the framework on some trades. But as far as evaluating players, I mean, the Raiders' first overall pick, presumably Fernando Mendoza, he didn't even throw at this thing. And usually the top prospects don't throw. It's usually where the pro days are the more valued things when it comes to scouts and GMs and everything when it comes to the draft. So I think the Combine's going to stick around, but I think its value is more so in like having a convention for GMs to get together and start talking free agency.
No, I agree with you. So, I mean, I still watch it, but I do agree that the value has probably diminished a little bit, Derek. I think it's more of a fan event now, almost like a precursor to getting ready for the NFL draft. And that's how the NFL likes to position it. I mean, they're letting fans in now, what, for the last how many years? Couple years now, you're a fan. You can actually get access to go to the combine. I also know that it's kind of stylized now as the NFL's version of the
Nope. Alon, you there? I think we lost Alon. You know, this may be an issue.
issue. I'm sorry about that, Derek. Can you hear me?
No, I got you. You there?
Yeah. So anyway, I was going to say, I think it has lost its, if I cut out again, I'm just going to switch to the phone. But
Okay.
if, anyway, I think it has lost its value. I think that it's become more of a fan event. It's kind of what the winter meetings are now, kind of for the for MLB as well. It's a good event for GMs and owners, but
Definitely.
yeah, it's not the way it used to be. Pro days seem to be more important, and when you have number one pick overall, presumably like Fernando Mendoza, who's not even going to throw. I mean, what do you get with the quarterbacks? You get to watch Ty Simpson throw some balls. That's about it. It seemed like. So it's still fun to watch, but it's definitely a precursor to the draft.
No doubt about that. And my good friend John Middlecoff, I think, recently said that he thinks the combine will go away in a few years. I don't know about that, but I do believe that just the value of it. And I mean, Rich Eisen used to broadcast every day when the players be out there with Mike Mayock, and now we're not getting the same thing. I think Red Lewis is taking that over when it's on the weekend. So the broadcast itself has diminished, and we don't even have Rich Eisen do his Run Rich Run anymore, which I always looked forward to. But yeah, just not the same anymore. But again, like I said, the combine was never on the forefront of my mind when it comes to the biggest things in the NFL offseason. So for today, we haven't been on in quite some time, about 2.5 weeks since we did our last episode of Just Your Opinion, man. And usually this time of year, we do the JYOMs, a little award show that we pay homage to everybody in the chat. And I see a lot of people right now. And now that it is me and Alon, and it may just be me today, depending on Alon's internet connection today. See a lot of people in the chat: AJ Cruz, Rocka New Era, Ernie One, I think the Skills Report, and I will make it more of a habit to talk to you guys as we do these shows. And today we're going to do the Jammies, which is our annual award show where we honor the year that was in sports and the year that was the show. In years past, we used to do like best impressions and best predictions. And I'll be honest, I don't have the time to go back and look at everything we said and every little impression or every bad impression me and Steven did. So we're going to cut those out and just focus on some of the storylines, best moments in sports, the biggest jackass of the year, best sound, all of that. Hey, Alon's on his phone now. All right, we'll get rid of fake Alon and bring in real Alon. What's going on, Alon? You got me?
Hi, yeah, I hear you.
Best connection you got so far.
Yeah. Sorry.
No. You're good, dude. Something we'll have to work on later on as we do these shows. But yeah, man, I was just telling the audience that today we'll do a little Jammies where we'll honor the year that was as far as the show and just some of the storylines. So we'll do that later on the show. But let's talk a little bit about the NFL offseason and the fuckery and the biggest story that's going on right now. And it's, involving one of the teams that we cover on this podcast, Maxx Crosby. So last time we did a show, me and Steven were talking, and I've got your opinions on this yet, Alon, but I know you were in the chat last time, and we were talking about maybe trade possibilities for Maxx Crosby. But last podcast, we talked about Jay Glazer, who during the Super Bowl media week was talking about how, in his gruffy voice, he's not going back there. He's not going back to the Raiders. He wants out. And the whole thing a year ago with him being shut down the last 2 games of the regular season with his meniscus. And since that time, there's been a lot of interviews. We talked about it. Maxx Crosby has been on multiple podcasts or multiple radio shows, and is not really giving credence to what's going on as far as wanting a trade demand, but doesn't really say that he wants to stay either. So since that time, a lot has gone on with the Raiders. Clint Kubiak, we talked about it, was introduced, but now they got their offensive coordinators, or they're pretty much their entire staff. I think Andrew Janico, I don't really know actually his last name, but a guy that was with him, I think was the quarterback coach, with the Seattle Seahawks came over as offensive coordinator. And this one surprised me. Rob Leonard was named defensive coordinator of the Raiders. And he's been with the team for quite some time now, the last few seasons. I want to say the last 3 seasons he was there. Prior to that, he was working with Mike McDonald as an outside linebackers coach with the Baltimore Ravens. But he worked with Maxx Crosby. And I thought that maybe Clint Kubiak was going to go with a experienced defensive coordinator, because obviously this is Clint Kubiak's first time, as a head coach. But he brings in Rob Leonard, who has a connection to Maxx Crosby, obviously. They're going to change the scheme to a 3-4. When I first saw this, I was like, I don't know if I love this, just because what really stood out with the defense a year ago? Why would they elevate a guy that was on a 3-14 team? It kind of felt like years ago when they named Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator, after Cliff Kingsbury said no. Took the job initially, but then passed on it. And Luke Getsy was named offensive coordinator really to make Devontae Adams happy. He knew him with the Green Bay Packers back in the day as wide receiver coach. So that's what I thought that this move was Rob Leonard being elevated to make Maxx Crosby happy, and hopefully he stays. And since that time, Maxx Crosby hasn't gone on Twitter and said, I'm staying as a Raider. I'm happy that my guy was elevated. So I don't think it's going to do much. I just hope that Clint Kubiak did this himself, made the decision on his own. It didn't have Mark Davis pushing him in one direction.
Looks like it cut out for a sec. But regarding the Rob Leonard, if you can still hear me, Derek.
No, I got you.
Yeah. Regarding the Rob Leonard thing, I think this is so much similar to the Luke Getsy thing. It's to appease a player. It's definitely to appease Maxx Crosby. But the only thing about it is I think it's a better move than Luke Getsy, because the Luke Getsy move was very much a backup move, and I think Rob Leonard definitely does have some proven I don't know. He has some chops regarding getting production out of the defensive line. I think he's gotten good production out of bad defensive lines. He's been able to get guys like Adam Butler to be good players. He got Malcolm Kuntz for about half a season to be a decent player. So I think there's a little more to it. Also, I mean, he has been around. He worked with the Ravens, right? And he's been around the league, but yeah, it's not like the sexy hire. I think everybody wanted Jim Schwartz, but I think this is definitely a move to kind of soothe Max and be like, hey, look, we're going to keep some continuity here for you, someone that you like in the building, and we're going to try to make things right for you. That being said, if Rob Leonard ends up being a good DC and they're switching to a 3-4, that could be very interesting, more 5-man fronts. They're definitely going to have to find a nose tackle now. They're also going to have to shore up the linebacker room. But what this signals to me is that they're definitely looking towards maybe getting more pressure on the quarterback, and that's why they're putting Rob Leonard in that spot.
And by the way, just to give him his due, Andrew Giannacco is the new Raiders offensive coordinator. Andrew Giannacco. Yeah, I mean, I texted you. I texted our buddy Aram about this move, and Aram was high on it just because, yes, it does kind of reek of let's make Maxx Crosby happy, but people do think highly of Rob Leonard, and we'll see what he's going to bring to this Raiders defense. But that's besides the point. The point is right now, like they'll build the defense in the offseason, which is right now free agency and the draft. But what's going to happen with Maxx Crosby right now? And the other day, I think he posted to social media saying that his meniscus injury is all good. He's playing basketball on his home court now, his literal home court in his home. And then, or before that, actually, John Spytek did a press conference during the combine where he said that he's confident that Maxx Crosby will return as a Raider. So when you saw that, Alon, what were your thoughts? Do you think that's just something that he's saying as the general manager, or you think that has some validity to it? All right. I'm not sure if we're going to get Alon. I think we just lost him, and I don't know. All right. Might just be me the rest of the show, guys. So the other day, hold on. All right, here we go with people in the chat here. Alon went by Rock a New Era. The Crosby talk is like JK talk. Not really. Not really. Like, there's actually, like, something going on here where this is leading to a trade. And honestly, anything in the NFL is bigger than what's going on with Kuminga, to be honest. And I don't want to live in, I know recently the last couple of days here that some of, Bay Area media are reacting to Jonathan Kuminga having big performances against the Atlanta Hawks. I'm done with Jonathan Kuminga talk. I'm 100% done with all that. With Maxx Crosby, yeah, he's the biggest name in free agency, or I should say the trade block for this NFL fuckery. So yeah, it is pretty big. Now Tacky jumps in and says the show sucks twice as much now without Alon. I hear you. I'm dying on my own now, but it is what it is right now. With John Spytek the other day saying that he's confident that the Raiders will have Maxx Crosby back. I mean, what's he supposed to say? I really don't know. Like, is he supposed to be like, we'll see? Like, that just triggers everything. And then media members then overreact and say, like, it's bound to happen. So he said the right things. I don't blame John Spytek for saying he's confident. He can easily, if they make a trade later on, say, I was confident at that point in time where Maxx Crosby was going to be a member of the Raiders. As far as what I believe right now, I told you guys last podcast, I do think Maxx Crosby's getting dealt. I think that at this point, it just makes sense. And look, I'm all for keeping your best players. And I know this is going to sound hypocritical when, how long ago was it now? 8 years ago? 8 years ago now. Jesus. Khalil Mack was traded right before the season, and I thought that was dumb. All be over a contract dispute. And this is more than that. This is where Maxx Crosby now is in year 8 or 9 now of his NFL career, and he's 29, and he's not getting any younger. And I mean, the one season where they went to the playoffs was 2021, and that was a shit show in its own right with John Gruden and Henry Ruggs. So I understand why he wants to move on. And when you're starting from scratch, really, I mean, you got some places, you got some pieces there when it comes to Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty, and they're going to have a new quarterback at Fernando Mendoza going forward. But it just doesn't make sense to have Maxx Crosby along for the ride. And you could compete next year. You could be a team that's ascending. But for him, he wants more than that at this point. He wants to actually compete for the playoffs and the Super Bowl. And when you have so many teams now interested in Maxx Crosby, why not get multiple first-round picks to build the team up? So I would be surprised if Maxx Crosby comes back as a Raider at this point. I think that, when there's smoke, there's fire. And I think that even though John Spytek said that he's confident in Maxx Crosby returning, I think James Palmer actually caught up with him from the Scoop City podcast and asked him, has Maxx Crosby said to you that he's going to return? And he said, well, we haven't got that far yet, blah, blah, blah. It just seems like there's been so many opportunities for Maxx Crosby to go on a podcast or a radio show or his own social media to address all these rumors, and he's decided not to. He's just letting it play out right now. I think he wants to pull a Giannis where he really wants to leave, but he's not going to demand a trade at the same time. So just let things play out. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if he gets some kind of notification this week that the Raiders and Maxx Crosby have mutually decided that they're going to explore trade options, and then he'll move on to a different team. And as I said before, I don't think it's going to be with the San Francisco 49ers. I know that some people think that, it's feasible that he could be dealt. I don't think so. Talked to my guy, John Middlecoff, the other day when I was hosting with John Dickinson, and I do believe this. He knows Spytek very well, and the whole Bay Area, rivalry mentality from back in the day of the 49ers versus the Raiders, is that still in play? No. He told me that they really don't give a shit about that anymore. And Tom Brady and John Spytek and Mark Davis are happy in Las Vegas, and they're not focused on any pass with the 49ers. But I also don't think that they're just going to give away Maxx Crosby for nothing. I think that there's these reports out there from a lot of respected journalists, media members, I should say, that Maxx Crosby won't be dealt for the Micah Parsons package. And I'm like, what? Why not? I understand that he's older than Micah Parsons. I understand that he's coming off a meniscus tear. Hey, we got Alon back. Last try with Alon. Alon, you there?
Last try.
Last try. Last dance. I was just talking about the value of Maxx Crosby right now, where some people are saying that he's not worth 2 first-round picks or a player even, in addition to the first-round picks. And I'm like, that's crazy to me. Where Sauce Gardner went for 2 first-round picks, I got to believe that Maxx Crosby's going for 2 first-round picks. Tim Kawakami, I think yesterday, said that he does believe that the 49ers could make a trade for Maxx Crosby, and it would include maybe a first-round pick and a future second or something like that. And I'm like, I wouldn't take that if I'm the Raiders. I understand that, if they want to move on from Maxx Crosby, then now it's the time to do it with a new quarterback and a new regime. Totally understand that. But if you're just going to trade him away for a first-round pick and then a high second or a third in a later draft, no. I think that the type of player he's been in his career warrants 2 first-round picks at the highest, or at the least, I should say. And if you want to include a player, like I brought up the scenario a couple weeks ago where you could trade with the Rams 2 first-round picks plus Byron Young. You're looking at guys or teams that have 2 first-round picks for this draft. So I look at the Cowboys, I look at the Rams, and it makes sense with Byron Young. But if that's too much for teams, if that's too rich for their blood, I get that. But at the least, I'm accepting 2 first-round picks for Maxx Crosby. Otherwise, what's the point of trading him? All right. I think Alon is frozen. Last try, last dance. So yeah, I don't understand why he would go for less than that. I think that, with the player he's been, and if you mention some of the best pass rushers on the football, I think he's top 5. So the fact that I think some teams are just trying to get the asking price down where they don't want to trade him for 2 first-round picks. They're seeing if they can, convince the Raiders that he could go for less than that. I just think that's not likely. I don't understand why they would ever settle for something less. And that's why I think teams like the Cowboys and the Rams make sense, because you could build up on multiple players in this draft. I don't know if this draft is the best we've had in recent years. It's pretty weak when it comes to the quarterback position and everything else. I mean, I should say everything else, but the quarterback position, it's pretty weak. I don't know what the strengths are. I've seen a lot of names. I'll be honest, I haven't done a lot of homework when it comes to this year's draft, and we'll do that as we get closer to April. But yeah, this is not a big name draft in my opinion. But if you want to accumulate picks, if you want 2 first-round picks, and you're trying to get more pass rush to make up for the lack of Maxx Crosby, then yeah, maybe this is the draft to do that. But we'll see what happens. I think the best case scenario for the Raiders is to trade with a team that has multiple picks for this year, so you can load up for 2 first-round picks in 2026 and multiple picks in 2027. That's why you're building your team up, and you can make things better for Fernando Mendoza, whether you want to build up the offensive line that definitely needs a lot of work, or the defensive line that maybe will miss or won't have Malcolm Kuntz anymore and Maxx Crosby. So Tal Pelissero was on the Rich Eisen show last week and said that there is a world where he expects, or there's a world where Maxx Crosby gets dealt in 7 to 10 days. And I can see that happening. I don't know if some teams are going to be, a little weary of that given the meniscus injury, but I got to believe that people value Maxx Crosby, and they can look at the medical stuff and see he's progressing in the right direction. So I get it. I know that I'm being hypocritical when years ago I was like, why the hell would you ever trade away Khalil Mack? It's totally different. I think that Khalil Mack was in the prime of his career, and so was Maxx Crosby, but I just thought it was ridiculous that the Raiders weren't willing to pay him. And I thought that it was ridiculous that John Gruden at one point in time said you can't pay the quarterback and you can't pay the pass rusher. Now every team is doing that. And that's 8 years after the fact, and things have changed. Salary caps are different. But yeah, I think with Maxx Crosby, again, I really don't understand why he's so pissed off with the meniscus tear and him being shut down for the last 2 games of the season. It's not really to tank. It's to help him. It's in his best interest to sit and make sure that he doesn't, make things worse with that injury. But, whatever, it pissed him off, and it sounds like he really doesn't trust John Spytek anymore. So I think that in the next week here, you may see where there's reports of him sitting down with Mark Davis and him telling him, I think it's in, my best interest and your best interest to get as much value for me as you can. And I need to go someplace else where, I could be a contender. And I do think right now, if I had to guess, I would say the Rams. There has been a lot of smoke there as far as a team that would trade for Maxx Crosby. I think it makes sense, though. I I just don't see the 49ers doing it. I don't think that they're in a position to trade away multiple first round picks, and I got to believe that that's going to be the value for him. Otherwise, why would the Raiders do this? It makes no sense for them to trade Maxx Crosby away if they're not getting a pretty good haul, which would be a player and 2 first-round picks, in my opinion. If you're not getting that, then you might as well hang on to him because you're trying to build your team up. But if it's just going to be minimal additions where it's just a first-round pick this year, so you got 2, but then down the line it's like an extra third. That doesn't make sense to me. And I go back to the Sauce Gardner trade. If he went for 2 first-round picks, I got to believe that Maxx Crosby will go for 2 as well. That would make no sense to me. I think this is just GMs on the opposing side of the Raiders telling the likes of Tom Pelissero and others that they're not going to get the Micah Parsons package, where John Spivey could just sit back and be like, try me. Go ahead. If you really want Maxx Crosby, I'm not trading him away for a first and a future third. That makes no fucking sense. So, yeah, the first team that's willing to come to the table and offer me 2 first-round picks to get Maxx Crosby, I got to believe that's one team will do that. But I don't think it's going to be the 49ers. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with Maxx Crosby in the next couple of weeks here. I do believe he's going to get dealt. I wish I knew Alon's opinion on this, and hopefully we get things figured out with his internet as we continue Just Your Opinion, man. This new edition, where it may just be more of me and the chat. Let's see what people in the chat here are saying. Niners have so many positions to fill. Yeah, they do. And we can get into that a little bit right now. Where the latest news, not a lot of news going on with the 49ers, but I guess the biggest thing lately is Trent Williams. He wants, I guess, a contract restructure or wants an entirely different contract. I guess he's got no guaranteed money for this season. Kind of a similar situation as we saw a couple years ago where he wanted a new deal and didn't show up to training camp simultaneously with Brandon Ayuk. And now this is a little different because the way that Adam Schefter had the wording in the report, it's that if they don't find a resolution, the 49ers and Trent Williams, then they'll move on and they'll cut him off the team and he'll be one of the biggest free agents in this free agency class. And I got to think it doesn't come to that. I got to think that they're so desperate with their offensive line, and they could talk up their offensive line all they want. He is the reason why that offensive line has success. And it's also Brock Purdy's mobility. But that offensive line needs Trent Williams. And if he was cut off the team, I don't know where they go. There's not a lot of great options as far as free agency when it comes to left tackles. So I got to think that the Niners have no leverage here. Now, does Trent Williams make this a little interesting where they could expedite the whole process of finding a replacement for him? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a must this offseason, where we can't keep going through this song and dance every offseason when it comes to Trent Williams. He obviously wants to get paid, but he's getting older. He's 38. And he's still playing at a high level, one of the best left tackles in all of football, and he wants to get his money. I do not blame him, but I do not blame the 49ers also for looking around and being like, how much longer can we do this? We need to find somebody that we can plug and play in one offseason, hopefully next year or 2 years down the line, where if Trent keeps pulling this and wants extra money, we tell Trent, hey, man, we love you, but we got to move on to our younger guy. He's much cheaper than what you are. So, yeah, I think that's a must for the 49ers this offseason is somewhere in the draft, find a left tackle that you think can replace Trent Williams. And obviously that's easier said than done because Trent Williams is a future Hall of Famer. But it needs to be done because he's approaching 40 and he still wants to get paid like he's one of the premier left tackles in all football, which he is, but the 49ers can't afford to do that every single year. Now, one of the other bigger storylines as far as the 49ers offseason is Mac Jones. And when I see Malik Willis is potentially going to be offered 2 years, $60 million, so $30 a year, I got to think there's a market for Mac Jones out there. I think that Mac Jones proved a year ago that if you put him in the right system, he can show the potential that he had back with Alabama. And we saw that in his rookie season with the New England Patriots, but then they did some weird shit where Patricia and Joe Judge were the offensive coordinators. So Mac Jones, uh, definitely declined as a player. And then he resurrected his career a year ago. He kind of had the Sam Darnold effect where he got with Shanahan and things slowed down for him and he played well. I think he went 5-3 in the 8 games where he replaced Brock Purdy. That's big time. So I know a lot of 49er fans want to hang on to him. And I get that because you want to have a good backup quarterback. This is the franchise that really started the QB controversy or really coined that term with Bill Walsh back in the day. QB controversy in quotations there, where it was Steve Young, it was Joe Montana, and you always want to have a good backup quarterback, whether that's Steve Bono or Elvis Gerback. But if this team really wants to compete, for Super Bowl this year, they have to have a competent quarterback where if Brock Purdy goes down for an extended period amount of time, you're comfortable in the backup. But I do think Kyle has proven that he can find that guy. Now, am I saying go back to Brandon Allen or Josh Dobbs? Fuck no. I'm saying you need to find, another guy, another reclamation project like a Mac Jones. Is that guy Zach Wilson? Yeah, maybe. Throwing bombs, banging moms, Zach Wilson. But I think that there's talent there that Kyle Shanahan can, uncover. And I think that would be a good option. I know some people are saying Kirk Cousins. I don't know about that. And Kirk Cousins might be released the next couple weeks here. So we'll see what his future is. I think that it makes sense for him to go back to Atlanta, but maybe he, is so turned off by that whole situation. But I'm confident the 49ers finding a good backup quarterback to replace Mac Jones. And also, I know you got to plan for everything, but you really can't plan for Brock Purdy missing a ton of games next season. Brock Purdy needs to play. And he showed a year ago when he came back from that turf toe, he was playing at a high level, the highest level of his career. So I think that you have to have the mentality that Brock Purdy is going to start 17 games. And most quarterbacks in the league don't have great backup quarterbacks. I'm not saying you don't get a good one, but we're treating Brock Purdy like, oh, let's hope that he stays healthy here. We got to make sure that Mac Jones can fill in. We say the same thing about Josh Allen. Let's hope that Mitch Trubisky can have the same effect as a Mac Jones, or, oh, let's hope that Snoop Huntley does the same thing with Lamar Jackson. When backup quarterbacks play, it's not a great situation. So you want your quarterback to be healthy for an entire season. Now, I don't want to act like Brock Purdy's injury prone. He did miss 8 games a year ago. I know some people are like, yeah, Brock missed some games in 2024. He missed 2. And really the only one he missed was because it was a game against Green Bay Packers. And then it was a game the final week of the regular season. And that was a throwaway game, basically a preseason game where they didn't want him to get hurt. And he was trying to get a contract extension in the offseason. So I don't know what this narrative is that Brock Purdy is injury prone. I think that you have to have the mentality that Brock Purdy is going to start every single game for you this season. So you can afford to trade away Mac Jones. And I think with the QB market and the draft class, I think teams will go after Mac Jones. Now, if you're not going to get a second round pick or a third round in return, then you might as well just keep him because he can walk at free agency next year and you get a comp pick from the third round for him. But if one team's desperate enough where you look around the league and they're like, oh, man, I don't know if I like Malik Willis. I don't know if I like Derek Carr as an option to come out of retirement. I like Mac Jones to be our next starting quarterback. I think some teams would offer a second-round pick or a third. And I think the Niners should be all over that. He is their best trade asset. And if you're trying to make multiple moves this offseason where you want to make moves to free agency and you want to make big-time trades, splashy trades, then you got to move Mac Jones, in my opinion. You got to get another second-round pick or something like that. So, look around the league, you see some teams. I think it's a foregone conclusion, the way that people are talking about, that Arizona is going to sign Malik Willis. And I was floating out there on Dirty Work that could you see Mac Jones being traded inside their own division? Could you see where he goes to Arizona? Would the 49ers be willing to give up Mac Jones? We have to face him twice a year. And I know some quarterbacks have been dealt in their own division the last few years. Joe Flacco. There's some throughout the course of history. Donovan McNabb got traded from the Eagles to the Redskins and Drew Bledsoe. But Mac Jones is so young, and I know that how competitive Kyle Shanahan is. It's not like he's thinking, well, the Arizona Cardinals are fourth, so who gives a shit about them? No. They're building something. They got the best tight end in football, in my opinion, Trey McBride. So I would not deal him inside your own division. So that leaves teams like the Atlanta Falcons, who don't have a lot of draft picks. Wait, do they? No, I'm thinking of the Colts. Actually, you know what? No, the Falcons don't have draft picks because they traded up for James Pierce, who's in trouble right now, and they don't have a first round pick this year. They gave that to the Rams, so they don't have a lot of options there. The Miami Dolphins don't have a lot of cap space, and they're going to deal with a lot of dead cap this year with releasing Tua in the next couple weeks here. Maybe they make him a post-June 1st designation. But I would think the Miami Dolphins is a good option for Mac Jones. They got multiple third-round picks. Would you have to give him a contract extension upon trading for him? Yeah, most likely. But I don't think it's going to be as much as Malik Willis. I think that's just when you get into free agency, it's a ridiculous bidding war, and some guys will be, overpaid. We're going to see that a lot with a lot of free agents where it's not the best free agency class. So, and then there's Minnesota, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me because I still think they want J.J. McCarthy to be, their starting quarterback in time, but he needs some push, some competition. Geno Smith's name's been thrown out there, and I saw today Dan Graziano and Jeremy Fowler had a ESPN article where they went through a lot of different storylines or different things they're hearing from the combine, and they brought up Geno. This is brought up actually by multiple people. Rich Eisen, Matt Berry, the fantasy guy. They all say that the Vikings are interested in Geno Smith. And I'm like, okay. And in Graziano and Fowler's report, some teams believe that Geno didn't play well this past year just because of the offensive line. It really wasn't anything that, it was because of him, because he was diminishing as a player. I think that's not entirely true. I think that, yes, the offensive line didn't help Geno Smith, but he didn't play well, and he was running for his life the entire time. And Chip Kelly didn't do him any favors either. But I think we saw that Geno Smith is not really a starting quarterback in this league. He just had a lot of talent around him with the Seattle Seahawks, and he took that team to the postseason once and had some good seasons. But I think that his time as a starting quarterback is over in this league. I think he's a backup, so maybe that's a good situation for him in Minnesota. Apparently, Derek Carr wants to come back for the right situation. I brought this up with Steven, and he was like, I don't really care about Derek Carr anymore. But I do, because I never thought he was retiring in the first place. I thought a year ago when he said he was retiring because of the shoulder injury and the Saints were screwing him on the money, that he was going to come back in a year. And I think the Vikings are a good situation for him. He could mentor J.J. McCarthy. I think that'd be a good situation, but according to Mike Florio, the Saints have not been approached by anybody when it comes to Derek Carr. And I don't think it'll cost you that much, maybe like a 6th-round pick, 7th-round pick. So I think he's a last resort for some teams, but I do think he's going to play this year. And I do think he's going to play for a team that's contending. Now, would the Vikings want to do that? Yeah, I think it makes sense. The Jets don't make a lot of sense, and I know that Derek Carr's got some old friends on the Jets coaching staff. He likes Aaron Glenn a lot. Bill Musgrave, his old OC with the Raiders, is the quarterback coach for the Jets now. But if you're Derek Carr, why am I coming out of retirement to play for the New York Jets when they're not trying to win themselves? I think Kyler Murray's name has been attached to the Jets as well, and I think that'd just be the same thing as Justin Fields, honestly. I think Kyler Murray's better than Justin Fields, but I don't think you're improving as a team as far as, increase in 5 wins or whatever. Like, it's basically the same thing. Now, I don't know if the Jets are really trying to win because they've accumulated so many draft picks, and this draft class sucks. So would they just be willing to draft Ty Simpson, or would they be willing to, go a different route? I don't know if they really want their quarterback of the future right now, which puts Aaron Glenn in a bad situation. But as far as the storylines when it comes to quarterbacks this offseason, we know that Tua and Kyler are getting cut, and I think Tua's name has been attached to the Falcons. I think he'd be a great fit with the Kansas City Chiefs, filling in for Mahomes for a couple of weeks and then learning from him. Kyler, his name's been attached to the Vikings and Jets. I think Kyler needs to learn too. I think that he's been in the league for a long time now, but he needs to show some maturity and some growth as a player. And I think learning behind maybe a Matthew Stafford would be beneficial for him when his guy Cliff Kingsbury's there. So I don't know if I don't know if Tua and Kyler are these guys that lose their jobs and then boom get starting gigs right away. I don't know about that. And I mentioned Kirk Cousins. There's the possibility that he could go into television. I think that Kirk is really good on TV. Win that AFC Championship game where he filled in for Matt Ryan, who left to go be the president of football operations for the Atlanta Falcons. I think he'd be great, but I think he still wants to play. I don't understand why everyone's kind of poo-pooing his return to the Falcons. I think that's, I think that makes a ton of sense. I think that his familiarity with Kevin Stefanski and the fact that Michael Penix is going to be out for a good deal of the season, go play with a guy that you know. You wanted to team up with him a year ago with the Cleveland Browns. You got talent. They just tagged Kyle Pitts. They got Bijan Robinson. You could win that division. I don't think anybody in that division's going away with it right now just because the Panthers and the Bucks were 8-9. The Saints are on the rise. It's anyone's division, but I think Kevin Stefanski's hands down the best coach in that division right now. So, yeah, if you're Kirk, I would go back to Atlanta. I don't want to go back to Minnesota to mentor JJ, or I can't think of any other team, honestly. Back up Brock Purdy, that makes no sense. You could start right away with the Falcons. So I know he's getting cut, but I think it's just really, financially why they're moving on from him, for a little bit of time when the new league year starts. I think Kirk Cousins probably goes back to Atlanta. So that probably, decreases the pool for teams that be interested in Mac Jones. But I don't know. I think the Niners should make an effort to try to trade him away. And if they could get, a high draft pick, whether that's a second-round pick or a third-round pick, I'm all for that. Now, if they're not getting that, if some teams are just not willing to move that capital for Mac Jones, then by all means, hang on to him. I think now's the time where his value's at an all-time high with the way that he filled in a year ago and having this resurgence in his career that the Niners should be jumping on that opportunity. As far as everything else, so we're for a little more back and forth with Alon today, but it's all good. We'll figure out his internet situation going forward. And we got Alon in the chat here. Alon's apologizing. So sorry, everybody. We'll have my internet fixed by Tuesday. Sorry, Derek. It's all good, Alon. No worries, man. See what else everybody else is taking here. Derek, your thoughts on sub 500 teams being allowed in the NFL playoffs? I mean, I hate it. I don't love that the Panthers went 8-9 a year ago and made the postseason, but that's the breaks, man. Like, it is what it is. I don't think you could drastically change it, and they're not going to. It sounds like when it comes to rule changes this offseason, they're keeping the tush push, and they're not changing the seeding in the NFL where if you win your division, that doesn't automatically mean you get a home field or a home game. It means that you get in the postseason, but you're not going to be the fourth seed at worst. I am a traditionalist when it comes to football. I don't want to see that change, to be honest. There's value in winning your division. I get that it sucks that the Carolina Panthers host a playoff game while the Rams have the better record. But win your division then. That's just the bottom line for me. Tacky asked, Derek, do you enjoy a good tush push? Every now and then, Tacky, and I'm sure you enjoy them as well. Some other things going on in the NFL, just as far as little news here. Aaron Jones and Javon Hargrave, the Gravedigger, are going to be released in the next couple of days here. Another running back that could be available. We can talk about this because it happened while I was on vacation, but Tyreek Hill was cut along with Bradley Chubb and others for the Miami Dolphins. I don't know if Tyreek Hill is going to play in this league anymore, to be honest. I think he wants to, but with a torn ACL and a dislocated leg on the same leg, I believe, it might be an uphill battle for him to, no pun intended, it might be a long way for him to come back to play in the NFL this season. And then I saw as far as like fits with the 49ers, Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano had this. Romeo Doubs could be a guy. I think he could be a good fit with the Raiders too. I think when you look at the free agency class when it comes to wide receivers, if I had to rank them, I would go Mike Evans, Alec Pierce, and then Romeo Doubs. Doubs is good. He gets open. He's a high-volume receiver as far as getting catches, but He's just inconsistent. He's got great hands, but we've also seen, I think it was the playoff game against the Chicago Bears. No, it was the regular season game where he dropped the onside kick, and he's just inconsistent sometimes with some drop passes. But I don't think he's a wide receiver one. And I think it would be for the 49ers, it'd be an upgrade over Juwan Jennings, but he's not as physical as him. And he does get hurt. He's got that great kazoo helmet on, the what's it called? The Guardian cap. I think that maybe you would want to go with Juwan Jennings over him just as far as durability. But then again, Juwan got hurt a year ago. For the 49ers, when it comes to wide receiver, I think they need to look into the Brian Thomas sweepstakes. Brian Thomas Jr., who is going to be dealt, did not fit with Liam Cohen and with the Jaguars, has a lot of talent. And that's where you need extra draft capital to go get him. So that's why I'm saying trade away Mac Jones. There's other guys that are available like Christian Kirk. If somehow Alec Pierce becomes available, I would be all over that for the 49ers. Another white guy. You got Ricky Pearsall. You got Alec Pierce. You got George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey. I got to believe that Alec Pierce probably gets paid big time this offseason, and I would assume that he's going to get tagged by the Colts. But then again, nothing's been done with Daniel Jones yet as far as a contract, so they got to pick between the quarterback or the wide receiver. And then as far as Mike Evans, I think that he would be great with the 49ers, but I think there was some criteria today of what he's looking for as far as his new team. The Buccaneers are really trying hard to bring him back and have him finish his career as a Buccaneer. But he had some criteria today. I'm pulling it up right now in real time. But I think Mike Evans, that has Buffalo Bills written all over it to me, where Josh Allen needs a guy that could go downfield. You saw it in the playoff game where Brandon Cooks was able to do that, but it led to the interception where he's got to be more physical, battling with the DB for that 50-50 ball going up in the air. I think that Mike Evans would be perfect for the Buffalo Bills, as his criteria, according to Jeremy Fowler, is he needs a QB he believes in, a chance at a Super Bowl, top shelf OC, promised of high volume touches. I think that fits the Bills, where he would clearly be the number one. With the 49ers, he would be the number one. But it's not guaranteed every single week that you're going to be that guy for Kyle Shanahan. Most of the time, it's going to be McCaffrey or Kittle when he returns. And yeah, if he was on the 49ers, he would be featured heavily. But I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if, with the desperation that the Bills have at wide receiver, that they make a big time move to go get Mike Evans. I could also see them getting Khalil Mack, as he's a free agent this offseason. If the Bills manage to get Mike Evans and Khalil Mack, I think that puts them in the driver's seat once again to be, maybe leapfrog the New England Patriots in the AFC East and try to be back on top again in the AFC. Or just, not again, because they never got up that high against the Kansas City Chiefs. But we'll see what the Chiefs do this offseason. Speaking of the Chiefs, they got to do some cap manipulation because they're 8 over right now, 8 million over. And I know that Mahomes did some contract reconstruction, but this is a guy that I've been thinking about for a while that they may move off of. And there's rumors that Travis Kelce may come back for one season, but it's got to be for really cheap. Chris Jones, John Middlecoff brought him up on his podcast where he believes that Brett Veach and Andy Reid might entertain offers to trade him. And I haven't heard a lot about this, but it does make sense because he's declining as a player, but still a really good player. Got, I think, 7 sacks a year ago as a defensive tackle. He's still one of the best, but he's getting up there in age as he gets into his early 30s. And I think that if a team is willing to offer to take on all the salary that he's going to be given this year, I think it's $34 million, then they would trade him away. And I think not for that much. Maybe a 3rd-round pick, a 4th-round pick. At the lowest, I would say a 4th-round pick. I think that if the 49ers are in a position where they'd be fine taking on all his salary, I would do that in a heartbeat. I would definitely have Chris Jones on this team. And if he's not the same player that he used to be, you can easily cut him, and he'll only count against $19 million for the dead cap. Taggy disagrees with me, though. He says, I'd rather have Hendrickson. Yeah. How long is Hendrickson playing? That's the same thing with Chris Jones, but with Hendrickson, he's gonna have to, you have to overpay for him because he's gonna hit free agency. Is he worth $30 million a year along with what you're paying Bosa? I don't know about that. So with Chris Jones, it wouldn't be like a long-term situation. With Hendrickson, you kind of have to do that. We have to sign him to like a 3-year deal or a 4-year deal. And I think there's other options for the 49ers in free agency. I think that when it comes to pass rush, they need one. They definitely maybe need multiple. Joey Bosa's name is always brought up, but he's always injured, and that's just a good story to have the Bosa brothers on the same line. But I like A.J. Epinesa, honestly. I like him a lot. He's with the Buffalo Bills. He's a cousin of Dominic Pooney, and you don't have to pay that much for him. He's a younger guy, only 26 years old. Taggy says, Hendrickson only costs money. I'd rather have the draft pick we likely will screw up. I hear you on that one. But money will bite you in the ass eventually. If you are trying to compete with the likes of the Rams and the Seahawks this offseason, then I think you need to get younger as far as the 49ers. I think you need to get younger on the defensive line and with the wide receivers. You need more speed on the field, and that's always brought up. They never draft those big-time, deep threats, but they need to find that guy. And I think Hendrickson would be fine, but I don't think that that's the right move they should make. I think they could probably find a younger option there. And we'll see about Bryce Huff. We'll see about Keon White. Unfortunate, he was shot in the Mission a couple weeks ago. I think it was right after the Super Bowl or during Super Bowl week. But yeah, the 49ers have their work cut out for them. They definitely need to compete with, there's other two teams in the division. They need to find younger players, and they're going to see some guys walk in free agency. Juwan Jennings, I think he'll probably walk. I think that the Niners were hesitant to give him a contract last offseason that was $20 to $25 million. So I don't think they're going to do that this season just because he caught 9 touchdown passes. He's the best, in my opinion, the best blocking wide receiver in football. But if you're looking for more explosiveness and a vertical threat, they can upgrade there. And I think that's what they'll do. I think another team like the Raiders or, I don't know, guys that run the Shanahan system, maybe with the LA Chargers, where I see Juwan Jennings leaving in free agency and getting his payday $20 to $25 million, where that's just too rich for the 49ers blood. And then as far as other news that came out this week, I mentioned Kyle Pitts getting tagged. George Pickens got tagged. We'll see if anybody else does. Breece Hall, that would suck because I want to see him leave the Jets. It makes no sense for him to remain on that team, but I understand why they want to keep him. He's a really good player, one of the best running backs in football right now, so versatile in the passing game and the running game. He probably gets the transitional tag where a team would have to come in and give up big-time value for him to leave. There's Kenneth Walker out there too, which it sounds like he may be leaving the Seahawks after being Super Bowl MVP, which would be very interesting. I think teams like the Texans or even the Raiders with Clint Kubiak now would be interested in him. Maybe he doesn't get the big payday that we anticipate just because he's Super Bowl MVP, but do we see him as really a running back number one? And then David Montgomery wants to be traded. I kind of figured that would happen. I figured that he'll just get cut because this is Jahmyr Gibbs' time, and they're going to give him a big-time contract this offseason. So I would anticipate that David Montgomery gets cut, and he'll have options, whether it's the Texans, the Raiders, or the Seahawks, or even the Titans. The Titans. We're not doing that this time around, guys. Just your opinion, man. Started anew where I'm going to enunciate the T's in some of these words. And that way I don't have to fucking hear Rockin' New Era or AJ Cruz or all of you in the chat when it comes to that shit. And maybe if you do that constantly, maybe that's the reason why you won't be named Opiner of the Year. We'll get to that in a little bit here. But yeah, I think that Kenneth Walker Jr. will have some options in free agency this offseason. And that's really it right now when it comes to NFL news. I know it's all speculation. And I know you guys hate that shit, but it's kind of what's going on right now. I mean, anything else in sports. Baseball's happening in a couple of weeks. The Sharks are playing today. Had a really good win yesterday against the Edmonton Oilers. They needed that big time because they lost, 5 in a row? So now the Sharks get off the schneid with a good performance. Macklin Celebrini getting a goal yesterday that won that game 5-4. And anything else? Oh, the Warriors. Like, I'll be honest. Like, it's hard to watch when Steph's not out there, and Porzingis isn't out there, and Jimmy's not out there, obviously, and I have low expectations of what they're going to do going forward. I think that Lacob still has his heart set on, making a deal for Giannis, which I don't think is going to happen. If I had to guess right now, I think Giannis stays with the Bucks. They find a way to make him happy. They give him a max deal. They make some moves. Maybe get Ja Morant, and then Giannis stays. But to act like that's going to be the ace in the hole for the Warriors, no. They need to find another option. Maybe Kawhi Leonard. Maybe that punishment with aspiration, which I think is ridiculous that he needs to get punished for that. That's just me. I know I told you guys a long time ago that I don't think it was that big of a deal. I think that a lot of teams make deals under the table for players. I think you're naive if you don't think that. But why he needs to be punished now for that, I think, is insane. It might be where Steve Ballmer takes on most of the punishment, but it sounds like Kawhi Leonard could be suspended, or could have his contract voided, which is insane to me. So that would be an option for the Warriors, another older guy, but I would like Kawhi Leonard on the team. This whole narrative that Mike Dunleavy Jr. and Joe Lacob are pushing now, that Draymond Green was never shopped. Okay, yes, if you want to split hairs and die on the terminology of shopped, then yeah, okay, he wasn't shopped, but was he included in the Giannis package? Yeah, we're not fucking stupid here. Like, he had to be. It was him or Jimmy, and many reports said they were not going to include Jimmy in that trade. So it had to be Draymond. And Draymond, still valuable to the Warriors, but should he start? Should he be in the closing lineup? I don't know about that anymore. And I wonder what he's going to feel this offseason, where he can opt into his contract for, I think it's $27 million, or opt out. And I don't think he's going to get a lot of money around the league now. But would he want to stick around with the Warriors when his role is diminishing? I don't think he's in his feelings as much as Klay Thompson, but that's something to keep an eye out for. And I do think the Warriors need him to opt in order to move him to get someone in return. And I heard Joe Lacob on Tim Kawakami's podcast saying that it wouldn't be a disappointment if they didn't have a big offseason. That's bullshit. Of course it would be. But they're trying to win for Steph Curry's last year under contract. And I don't think Steph would ever just walk away from the team, but they got to make it a little more exciting for him. Now, as far as Steve Kerr and his future, I think he's sticking around. I think the Kuminga stuff was the real bugaboo, where he was like, I don't know if I want to fucking coach this team anymore. And there's a lot of bullshit with the owner too, but I think it just, you hear him now, he's got that joy again. Like, I keep bringing it up, but it's there. Steve, years ago, was talked about playing with joy, and Kevin Durant mocked him for that saying. But I didn't see joy from Steve Kerr for a good deal of this season. And then the last few games after Kuminga, where they get Guy Santos a contract, and they have a lot of scrappy guys. Maybe they're not the most talented bunch, but they're playing his style of basketball. Steve Kerr's focused again. I shouldn't say focused. He's happy again. I think he's happy coaching this basketball team, and I don't think he needs a big-time move this offseason for him to return. So I would say that Steve Kerr's coming back, maybe for one last year to go off to the sunset with Draymond Green and Steph Curry. So that's the Warriors. I think that's about it, guys, as far as what's going on in sports. I know it's a slow time. So that's why we do the Jammies. It's time for the third annual Jammies. And it feels weird not doing this with Steven. But, yeah, we're doing this award show. And every year we had, as I write down, let's see where I put all of our winners. Every year we have these awards. Opiner of the Year, Sound of the Year, Jackass of the Year, Dumbest Story of the Year, and Sports Moment of the Year. And in the past, we did like Impression of the Year and Best Prediction of the Year. And I don't have time to go back and listen to, which impression did we do the best and what prediction did we get right. So we're moving on from that one. I think, Tacky says here in the chat, I have to be a lock for Jackass of the Year. You're in contention, no doubt about that. But let's start off with, where do we want to start off first? Let's do dumbest story of the year. I wonder if Steven still has all these things that were built. Prediction of the year. Let's see what we got. Impression of the year. Jackass of the year. Sound. Oh, here we go.
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Nice. All right. Dumbest story of the year. Ah, there's so many. There's so many to choose from that are not coming off the top of my mind right now. And this shows how much I prepared for this award ceremony. But I'm going to go with the substation with the 49ers because that one, I understand there's some validity to it. And I know that the players have concerns about it. And it's a story. I'm not saying that it isn't a story. I just think it's a dumb story. I know that Christian McCaffrey and Kyle Juszczyk and other players have voiced their concerns. This really stemmed from John Feliciano going on his podcast or whatever it was and talking about the conspiracy theory of the substation. And I just hate that this grew into a thing where we're talking about it now. Now, you got to find like some research and some smarter people than me and John Feliciano out there that actually find some concrete evidence that this is the reason why the 49ers are having as many injuries as they've accumulated throughout the years. Now, do I want to downplay all of the players' concerns? No, I don't. I get it. It's their livelihoods on the line. It's their practice field. And I know that the biggest excuse brought up for why this isn't a story is because that substation's been there since 1987. I hear you. I also hear the argument that it's probably grown in power since that time. So, yeah, I understand why that's a concern. I just think it's ridiculous, though, when John Lynch has to, respond to questions at a press conference and Jed York, and they treat it like it's a trade where like, oh, would you trade for Maxx Crosby? Well, we look into everything. Oh, would you guys be willing to give up the substation? Yeah, we look into everything. I just don't think it needs to be as blown up as it is. And I think we need to kind of just let it go away for a little bit of time. And we brought it up again once another guy gets injured. But I think at the end of the day, it's just football, guys. I think that, honestly, yes, the 49ers are just unlucky. I think that a lot of teams got injured this year. The Broncos got injured at the worst possible time. The Packers got injured this year. But no question, the 49ers have been banged up the most. But I think they're just a physical football team. And they just have been lucky in, when it comes to injuries, and it's not helpful when Nick Bosa and Fred Warner are out for the season. And they found a way to win, though. It just shows it's a testament to Kyle Shanahan as a head coach and Brock Purdy as a quarterback. And I don't think a substation has anything to do with a turf toe injury. That's just something that happened during the Seattle Seahawks game. And Bosa has been prone to ACL tears. With Fred Warner was a freak thing. And Juwan Jennings sustained that injury in preseason when it came to, I believe he had Achilles injury, right? Or something like that. With Christian McCaffrey, I don't know what happened. He's getting older as a player, and sometimes things are going to break down. Mykel Williams, I don't think that there's a lot of validity to this, but one argument I could have is he played on the MetLife turf, and that's why he tore his ACL. So I understand there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there, and that's kind of the norm these days when there's so many podcasts out there. Everybody gives their opinions, and then we go with something. I understand the players' concern. But the fact that this is getting a ton of run and the legs that it's had, in my opinion, it's the dumbest story of the year when it comes to the 49ers and the substation. All right, what's our next category here? What did Steven do here? Let's do sound of the year.
That's just like your opinion, man.
So I think last year's winner was, what was that guy? Keith McPherson. And he was on WFAN, and he was messing around with John Heyman, and that just made me laugh. That was hands down the sound of the year. This year, it's kind of tricky because I'm thinking about what sound bites me and Steven love the most. There was the Dave Portnoy, him freaking out. The Raiders should be in prison. Prison Pete Carroll. Murder Pete Carroll. And it was funny at the time, but I don't think that warrants sound of the year. Bill Belichick's interview with Holly Rowe before his first game as a head coach. at North Carolina was pretty funny. She was kind of expecting him to, give a little bit more, and he was just like, getting ready for this, and we're ready for a new beginning as head coach of North Carolina football. And then she was like, "Oh, you're wearing cutoff sleeves. That's kind of your thing." Yeah, it's kind of my thing here, Holly. That to me is not worthy of it. There's one soundbite in particular which makes me laugh, and it's quick, but I don't know. In hindsight, like it's not as good as a year ago with Keith McPherson, but I think it's, in my opinion, the best sound of the year. So this was, I think it was week 3 of the NFL season, or maybe it was earlier. But I hate these interviews that coaches have to do on the sidelines. It's different than in any sport, really. Like when managers have to do interviews in the dugout, I think that's lame. When Greg Popovich had to do interviews, coming back from quarters on TNT, that was lame, but also was fun. With the silent reporter that unfortunately passed away. I'm forgetting his name at the moment. But when it comes to NFL interviews mid-game, I just think it's awkward. Or NFL coaches are so fucking crazy that if you throw them off, if you get them out of their element, then they're going to come off weird. Craig Sager, yes, thank you. Thank you, Skills. Craig Sager. If you throw them off their game a little bit, then they're going to come off as rude. And I don't think, coaches are in the moment. They're trying to, win a game here. So that's why Kyle Shanahan hates these interviews. I think Sean McVay comes across as cheesy and just, disingenuous when he does his interviews. Ben Johnson, I love this because you're seeing how crazy he is. And I think Aditi Kikawala wasn't terrible at what she asked, but she probably could have phrased this in a better way. So this is in my opinion, this is the sound of the year, Ben Johnson kind of losing his shit, being asked a question on the sideline.
Your offense has struggled to take advantage of those takeaways.
Yep.
Okay, so what did you tell them to get things going?
That it wasn't our brand of football. We're capable of a lot more, and so we're hitting the reset button here at halftime, and we're going to come back and establish our identity here in the second half.
You need to change what you're doing.
I don't know. You think so? We're going to be just fine.
Thank you.
All right, Ben Johnson, all business. The little intimidation,
How do you really feel?
menacing stare.
The stare is what sold it for me. The fact that he's pissed at that question from Aditi, like the way she said it. So you need to change what you're doing. Well, yeah, no shit, we need to change what we're doing. And I think she was just trying to be comical. She wasn't really like criticizing Ben Johnson as a player, as a coach. But that was the first time we saw Ben Johnson kind of be who he is, crazy. This is, he talked shit to Matt LaFleur in the press conference when he was introduced. This was the first time where we saw, like, he's going to be that type of coach where if you piss him off or if you say the wrong thing, then he may get after you in a press conference, which didn't happen a lot this season, but there was many times where he was crazy with fourth down decisions. He was never like, exuberant in joy when the Bears won. Only afterwards, like when they won in Philadelphia, he took his shirt off. That was fun. But, yeah, I think that was probably the funniest coach encounter with a silent reporter this season. So that's my sound of the year. All right, let's do Jackass of the year. Let's do the John Fisher Award, as we call it here on Just Your Opinion, Man. The Jackass of the year.
That's just like your opinion, man.
All right, so we usually do this every week. Jackass of the week, the John Fisher Award, we call it. But who's the person that pretty much epitomized just being a jackass for 365, the entire season, someone that annoyed us or did something just so terrible that we all are in agreement that they're a jackass? And there's a lot of people we could choose from, but one person comes to mind. And this could have been in the dumbest story topic of the year, but it was a story. I can't deny that it was a story. It was just annoying. But the jackass of the year, because he was involved with it, was by far Aaron Turner, Jonathan Kuminga's agent. This guy, I don't care for agents being the focus of attention. I think that Drew Rosenhaus was always annoying, and I can't stand that when things are reported now. When we have like breaking news, agents need to be included. I understand that they pretty much dictate everything that goes on when it comes to sports, as far as news, like what we learn. It's from agents. I get that. But Aaron Turner made it about himself, where yes, he's trying to help his client and Jonathan Kuminga, but dear Lord, this guy going on radio shows and doing multiple interviews and really giving Jonathan Kuminga terrible advice. However you want to say, you know, whether you want to be on Jonathan Kuminga's side or Steve Kerr's side as far as who was wrong and why he had to be traded away from the Warriors. He got his deal in the end, but it was the same deal that was on the table for quite some time. And the fact that Steph Curry had to call him out during media day and saying that I don't talk about agents, the fact that he was even asked a question about Aaron Turner, that's not why we watch sports, guys. We don't watch sports for agents. Yes, they may break news for us by giving it to the insiders, but the fact that they're a part of it, that they get these interviews, like I'm not a fan of Scott Boras, I'm not a fan of Drew Rosenhaus, not a fan of David Mulugeta, where we know these guys' names. And yes, that's just the business of sports, but when they become the center of attention and they're doing interviews and they're giving their clients bad advice, then they're a jackass. And the fact that we had to focus on Kuminga this offseason and he held the offseason hostage, where that prevented Al Horford from being signed and all these other moves, it didn't really make Kuminga to be a jackass. It made Aaron Turner to be a jackass. And in a close second is Tacky. No doubt about that. But yeah, hands down, my jackass of the year is Aaron Turner. All right, what else we got here? We got two more. Sports moment of the year. So last year, I think that me and Steve were in agreement that the winner was Team USA beating France in the gold medal game with basketball. Steph Curry having those 4 threes in the fourth quarter. Unbelievable moment. Prior to that, I think the year before, we picked Shohei Ohtani striking out Mike Trout in the WBC. Both great moments. Both, one was Olympic moment. One was, America versus Japan. So I kind of got to go with the trend here, where you think about this past year and great moments in sports. Oklahoma City beating the Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton tore his Achilles in that game. The Seahawks beat down the Patriots. I think the best moment in sports happened a couple weeks ago. I think we're always going to remember it, when Team USA beat Team Canada in the Olympics in overtime. Jack Hughes getting that goal. Connor Hellebuck, his all-time performance, 41 saves. And I think the Sharks will see him today, actually, in about 20 minutes here. I thought that was, we'll remember where we were. You got up at 5:10 in the morning to watch it on the West Coast. And I thought that Team Canada was going to run away with it. That's why on the radio show, Dirty Work, I was having fun with it. I didn't think that Team USA had a chance against Team Canada, because I thought Team Canada was like Team USA in basketball. When you had Sidney Crosby, Macklin Celebrini, Connor McDavid, all those guys, I thought that nobody stood a chance. And the way they dominated early on, the way that Macklin dominated early on, getting 5 goals throughout the Olympics, all-time performance. And he belongs. It's great to see this guy. We see him here locally, but now to see him at the highest level and be embraced by these other guys that were embraced by Wayne Gretzky at one point in time, it's remarkable what this kid's doing right now. So I was having fun with it on the radio, saying I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for Team Canada over Team USA. But that's a lie. Like, honestly, I'm not do I love America? Yes. Are there problems with it? Absolutely. Am I the most patriotic person 24/7? No. But when it comes to the Olympics, you got to root for your country. And I was watching the Olympics with my mom while I was on vacation, and the hockey was unbelievable. Their performance against Sweden in overtime, Slovakia, where they dominated. I think the final was like 6-2. But I still did not believe they were going to win against Team Canada, even without Sidney Crosby. And some hockey purists are going to say that Team Canada was the better team that day, And it was just the unbelievable performance of Connor Hellebuck. But, in the end, Team USA won. They get the goal in overtime. And, all of us, the majority of us are, young enough where we didn't see the miracle back in 1980 when they got the gold medal. So do that 46 years later, unbelievable. And I'll always remember that moment. Just an all-time moment where Team USA reigned supreme over Team Canada. And I'll give this another jackass of the year, or just jackass of the week. The people that run the Winter Olympics that passed out that plush doll to all the silver medal winners, read the room. Like, I get it. Like, that's a collector's item and it's going to cost like $300 for the average person. But when you got your ass kicked and you have to stand on the ice and deal with that moment, and you really didn't want to get that silver medal, and then you're given a little doll to make sure, oh, it's, you lost, but here's your medal and here's your little, plush doll. It's like, oh, give me a fucking break here. But, as far as Team USA, all-time moment, hell of a time watching that. So that is my sports moment of the year. Alon thought the doll was cute, though. Yeah, sure. It was cute, but in that moment, like, no one wants to fucking see that. And we're lucky that Team USA, men's, the men's hockey team and the women's hockey team both won, beating Canada in overtime. The fact that happened, the same type of, win, the same type of, moment for both teams, just unbelievable. So that's my sports moment of the year. And now it's time for Opiner of the year. And this goes to the person that supports Just Your Opinion Man more than the others. So let's get that award ready to go.
That's just like your opinion, man.
So the first recipient of Opiner of the Year was Ernie One back in 2024, where since day one, me and Steven doing this podcast, Ernie One has been supportive. He was always in the chat when we didn't have like a lot of people in the YouTube chat. He was there just kind of talking to us. So I've always appreciated that. And then last year, we had Rocka New Era win the award, and he's been extremely supportive. He joined Ernie later on, always in the chat, always promoting us, always at, our get-togethers, whether it's, at, what's our place in Walnut Creek that closed down? Blanking on the name right now. But he was there a couple weeks ago when we were doing a show live at Jack's Restaurant and Bar. He just, he always shows up, and he always knows to, get me gifts and give me a ride. So that helps too. Massier's, that's right. Massier's closed down. God, all my bars closing down in the Bay Area. It sucks. The Athletic Club in Oakland, Massier's. Need to find new places, new watering holes. So who's this year's Opiner of the Year? Who should win this award? Should it go back to Ernie One? Should it go back to Rocka New Era? Should we have a new recipient? And I thought about, our contestants. Tacky says here in the chat, I support half of Just Your Opinion Man, just not today. Yeah, he's more supportive of Steven. And he always tells me to eat shit, which in his own way is his show of support. I appreciate that, Tacky. But Tacky usually drops by sometimes in the chat, but he has to go watch some Gordon Ramsay bullshit show. Never makes it out to any of the live events, even though they're in his neck of the woods. So I don't think Tacky's going to win the award today. Pat H. Pat H is in contention as well. He always shows up, but I don't see him here today. Is Pat H in the chat? So it's kind of the rule. If you're going to win Opiner of the Year, you kind of have to be in the chat, in my opinion. And then there's AJ Cruz. AJ Cruz, I think, has a love-hate relationship with Just Your Opinion Man, where he likes the show. He's always here, but he hates the fact there's no call-in line. He hates the fact that there is too much football talk. He loves calling in on Dirty Work and doing the Mexican-American Dream. And I know It is what it is, AJ Cruz. Everybody knows that you're that guy now. But is AJ Cruz worthy of Opiner of the Year? I don't know about that. So I'll leave it up to you guys. Should I give the award to a new recipient, or should we go back to who won the award in previous years? And Rockin' New Era says we need a cruise line on here. I'm trying to figure out the technology, guys. I don't know how Walter does it. I got to figure it out. I would love to take calls, especially days like this where I'm just tap dancing by myself. But yeah, if I can find a way to take calls on the show, I will going forward. And then there's Otis Bird. Otis Bird is the word who's not here today. But I do love Otis. He's the most supportive guy as far as just like saying nice things in the comment section. Not always in the chat, doesn't always show up to every event we do, but he's the nicest guy by far. But I gotta stand by my rule. If you are in the chat today, if you're not in the chat, you can't get the award. So, with that being said, the winner of the 2026 Opiner of the Year award goes to. You ready? You're all in anticipation here. Rockin' New Era once again. Rockin' New Era wins the award back-to-back years. Congrats, Rockin' New Era. He's just always here. And even though he says he's not going to listen to the show, he will listen to the show. And he's always there to pick me up from Bart and give me a ride. So for that reason alone, I'm giving it to Rockin' New Era. Back-to-back years, 2 years in a row. Congratulations, Rockin' New Era. It's like he's the Dodgers of Just Your Opinion, man. Unbelievable. And I know you love being compared to that team. So that is your 2026 JYOM Awards. Yeah, we're definitely off to a roaring start here with the new edition of Just Your Opinion, man. And Rockin' Era says fuck off when being compared to the Dodgers. I know you would hate that. Look, I know today was kind of weird. First show. I like our new little intro. If you're watching the YouTube stream where we got Jeff Bridges and a new little video to start things. I'm taking suggestions, whatever you guys want to do. If there's a way that I could take calls, I'll find a way to do it on here. I hope to have Alon's technical situations figured out. We'll get him more on the podcast. We're gonna have many new casting characters and some friends on here. Walter's gonna join me at some point. We're gonna have Greg Silver on here. Me and my buddy Andy to talk about the Oscars in a couple weeks. But I want to keep this thing going. And I know that, look, let's just address the elephant in the room here. It's not going to be the same without Steven. I love Steven. Steven was my buddy. And I wish nothing but the best for him going forward. Are things going to be different? Yes. But I still want this to be a fun show for all of us to talk football, baseball, basketball. We're going to talk about all sports. For right now, I love the fuckery. So that's what we're focused on. But we'll branch off to other things. We'll do pop culture, and we'll definitely take your comments in the YouTube stream. So I look forward to that. So thank you guys for your support. We'll keep this thing going, and might change some things here or there with the look of the show. The branding might be different when it comes to the intro of the podcast, or maybe the logo is going to change a little bit. But like I said, I hope Steven comes back. But I also understand if he does not want to, where he's got more important things going on in his life. So thanks to you guys for tuning in today. We'll hopefully be back on Wednesday. That's when I'll have Alon join me again. Hopefully we'll figure out his internet situation. But thanks to everybody in the chat today. Thanks to, and AJ Cruz says, Derek has cursed less than 5 times all show. Yeah, when it's just me, I have a clean mouth. I have to clean things up where I'm just kind of focused on my vocabulary. So I'm not just cursing willy-nilly on this show. And maybe that'd be a new thing going forward. Maybe I'll curse less. Nah, actually, fuck that. I want to curse more on this show where I'm just always thinking about not cursing on dirty work, which is hard to do. But thanks to everybody in the chat today. Thanks to AJ Cruz. Thanks to Rockin' New Era. Thanks to Tacky69. Thanks to the Skills Report, who was also in contention for Opiner of the Year. Always appreciate him counting down our episodes and comparing them to actual TV shows on television. Thank you for doing that, Skills. Thanks to Alon. I know the internet situation was shitty today, but we'll figure it out, man, going forward. I look forward to you joining me on the podcast. And I believe, I think I said everyone, I think I said Rockin', I think I said everybody here in the chat. Thanks to you guys, as always, for supporting the show. Let's start the new edition of Just Your Opinion, man. And I guess I'll say what Steven always said. If you hate this show, it's not going to be the same without Steven. Well, you might be right, but that's just your opinion, man.